The Affordable Housing Policy (DRMM) is a sub-policy that was created to set standard, primary requirement, costs, and guidelines for the affordable housing, whether it was created by the federal government, state government, or private parties, to address issues raised in the affordable housing industry. This sub-policy was launched on May 19, 2019, in order to make it simpler for people to buy their own home. The government wants to boost Malaysia's supply of affordable housing through DRMM. DRMM also aims for helping the bottom 40% to buy their own house. There are three main reasons for the creation of this sub-policy. First, inability to buy a house according to the market price. Secondly, mismatch between supply and demand of houses by location, and failure to obtain affordable housing financing. Next is the evolution of the policy. There are 6 phases of housing policy. First phase is the early independence housing phase, 1957 until 1970. In this phase, the low-cost houses that were built were intended to overcome the problem of poverty in Malaysia. Secondly, housing to overcome poverty, 1970 until 1985. In this phase, the new economic policy was introduced. In this phase, as many as 100,000 units of low-cost public housing (PARK) have been built throughout the country. Thirdly, market-focused housing, 1986 until 1997. In this phase, 1.2 million low-cost housing units were built, and they were built by the private sector. Fourthly, housing to eliminate slum, 1998 until 2011. In this phase, the ceiling price of low-cost houses has increased from RM25,000 to 42,000. Fifthly, affordable housing, 2012 until 2017. Since 2012, the supply of new homes has consistently been less than the increases in the household demand. Lastly, National Affordable Housing Policy, 2018 until ongoing. The National Housing Policy is generally the main policy that will be referred to guide and drive the country housing sector. That's all for the evolution of the policy.
There are 5 objectives of the Malaysian Affordable Housing Policy, or as it called Dasar Perumahan Mampu Milik (DRMM). The first objective is to provide affordable housing policies that are practical and relevant in line with the growth of housing. Next, to help the public and private sectors realize affordable development in a cost-effective and economical manner. Other than that, to drive the direction of affordable housing development to ensure that every household is able to own a house based on their ability to own a house. The fourth objective is to create uniformity in the allocation of affordable housing among housing industry players. And lastly, is to outline the specification and characteristics of sustainable, habitable, and safe housing development to improve the quality of life at a price that the people can afford. The first strategy taken by the Government of Malaysia to achieve the objectives of the RMM is by building affordable housing development on federal and state government land. This strategy is seen to be able to help reduce input costs in the development of affordable houses because of the lands was given for free or nominally. State government can develop affordable housing in collaboration with private developers following state housing policy. The federal government will provide subsidies, state government will provide lands, while banks will facilitate financing to ensure that affordable houses can be sold at good prices. For example, the Rumah Selangorku program by the state government of Selangor is an affordable housing where the houses was built on the state government's land with the cooperation of a private sector company, Glomac Berhad. Furthermore, reduction of processing charges and compliance costs incurred to developers can contribute to cost reduction for the affordable housing category. The RMM policy mandates developers to adopt the Industrialized Building System (IBS) and encourages them to use Building Information Modeling (BIM) technology in affordable housing construction to ensure that the construction is safe. The government will provide incentives and tax exemptions on machine and tools to support the implementation of IBS. This will lead to reduction in construction costs and can help to reduce house prices and then improve housing affordability. Affordable houses development such as Prima that are using IBS technology can help reduce construction time, thus the cost will be low. In improving the efficiency of affordable housing provision, the central coordination of housing information through a single entity can rebalance supply into an affordable range and ensure new project development is in suitable locations. Information like more comprehensive real estate information that covers housing supply and needs as a whole can be a guide to the market regarding the supply situation and can be used by the government and housing developers as a source for information for future development. For example, the government has created the Housing Integrated Management (HIMS), which are implemented by the National Housing Department (NHD) to regulate, manage, engage, receive, and gather data relating to housing developments. Next strategy is increasing the level of household financial literacy. It is important for home buyers to assess their ability to make the financial commitments associated with owning a home, including mortgage payment and other related expenses. The government agency Counseling dan Pengurusan Kredit (AKPK) has provided online financial education modules to improve the Malaysian financial literacy. It provides advice and guidance on the decision to buy or rent a home. The RMM mandates the Central Bank of Malaysia and its management agency AKPK to establish the credit counseling system to educate and advise the public on financial matters. This will improve an individual's financing ability and assist them in their home purchasing journey and assure housing affordability.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Sudarana and I will present about the impact of COVID-19 to this housing policy. As we know, the COVID-19 crisis is indeed affecting and paralyzing various sectors in each country. This has caused the collapse of the economic sector in the country so that the country has a very low income and a clear decrease in income from what it should have been before this crisis. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on the housing sector, but the government has moved quickly to implement various measures aimed at minimizing the crisis' negative consequences for tenants, borrowers, and others. According to interviews conducted with REDA, the Movement Control Order (MCO) that was established from March to May 2020 had a significant influence on the construction industry, including the affordable housing segment. Major media reports also touch on issues involving iron supplies, which is one of the most critical elements in the construction industry, and has resulted in a price increase of around 30 to 40% from the original price since the outbreak of this epidemic. Aside from the issues, the sector is also dealing with a period of operation that must be frozen for a set period of time throughout the initial phase of MCO, as well as the need to implement new norms as needed to restart operation at the construction site. That's all from me. Let's move to the next presenter. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, I'm Siti Nur Atika. So I will explain the evaluation of DRM policy. So firstly, from research, we find that this policy is ineffective. Until 2022, federal government, state government, and also private developers have completed 259,000 affordable homes, or 43.2% of the target of 653,000. From this policy, we can see it can only achieve more than half of the target that had been set. Next part is about whether the affordable housing policy DRM achieved every objective. So the first objective of the DRM is to provide affordable housing policy that are practical and relevant in line with the growth of housing. So the first objective was not achieved. Why? This is because this is based on the government desire to reduce the surplus supplies of the housing that being built as a result of the Malaysian being unable to buy homes, and also the numbers of houses that were built is less than the half what the government have been intended. Second objective is to help the public and private sector realize on affordable development cost effectively and also economically. So this objective also ineffective. It is because the price of the building supplies is increased. Besides, Malaysian currency rate also fall because of the price of goods that are imported from the abroad, make the people unable to apply for this scheme. Furthermore, the lack of cooperation between the federal government and the state government is governed by the opposition party of the ruling governments. So the issue of the land by the federal and the state government, the land also cannot be given to the private housing developer as the land is allocation is disrupted. So this give effect on the affordable house project as the developer cannot go through with the development. Okay, third objective is to drive the direction of affordable housing development to ensure that every household is able to own a house based on their ability. So this objective is also ineffective. Many people still cannot buy houses due to the low income level and are not eligible to apply for the scheme such as B40 and also Asnaf Group because they're having financial problems. So Malaysian also still lack assurance of financial literacy. 75% of Malaysian are aware that rising price are a result of the inflation, but only 38% of individuals they recognize how inflation affect their own purchasing power. 1 in 10 Malaysian thinks that they lack on the money management, but this demonstrates that the government aim to raise the household's financial literacy has produced absolutely no results. Next objective is to create uniformity in the allocation of affordable housing among the housing industry players. So there are various agencies involved in affordable housing schemes such as One Malaysia People Housing, Penang Regional Development Authority, we call it PERTA, and also Civil Servant Housing One Malaysia. So these prove that uniformity in the allocation of the affordable housing among the housing industry cannot be achieved. This agency outline the cost and values of the house based on the supply price factors, land prices, and also depends on the location of the housing to be built.
In the contrary with other objectives, the last objective to outline the specification and characteristics of sustainable, habitable and safe housing development to improve the quality of life at a price that the people can afford can be said was achieved. This is because the government has outlined the specification and characteristics such as the area of the house should be at least 900 square feet, must have Class C certificate, must have public facilities such as kindergarten, surau and mortuary management room with under the price of 300,000. Make sure that the objective was achieved. Residency Max under the Rumah WIP Affordable House Program is an example that adopt these specifications.
Okay, now we move to the issue after the policy is implemented. First issue is the problem of financial ability that causing people not to be able to get affordable housing schemes. So many issues arise after DRMM policy was implemented, such as home buyers that face financial affordability issues, global recessions, and also constant inflation rate. Because of the unstable economic situation, they are not eligible to apply for the affordable housing scheme. It can be seen that with an increase in the overnight policy rate OPR of 25 basis point in the July and consumer price index rising to the highest level up to 4.4% year on year. Next issue that arises is rising prices of home supplies. Rising housing price due to many factors such as land prices, building materials, labor costs, increased demand for goods, disruption to supply chains, and also speculative activities. Besides, the issue of the increased price of goods is caused by the cost incurred at the various level of the supply chain before reach the supplier of homemaking goods. Okay, the last issue that the developer failed to build affordable housing that the government have been targeted. So one of the reasons that the target for the construction of DRM failed to achieve within the 5 years was the failure of the developer to complete the project within the set period. So according to the Datuk Seri Ismail Abdul Muttalib, the deputy of the Minister of the Housing and the Local Government KPKT, he stated that there is a lack of suitable land and also the problem of providing allocation. So in 2022, the COVID-19 pandemic that the nation is dealing with has led to the implementation of the Movement Control Order MCO, which prohibit the closing of housing construction operation from March 2022 to September 2022. So that's all from me. I'm passing back to the next presenter to explain another part.
Thank you, Tika, for the explanation. Assalamualaikum, everyone. I am Nusha Zwani. I will continue our presentation by evaluating each policy objective based on the issue that arise after the implementation. Based on the first objective, many Malaysians can still not afford to buy a house under the affordable housing scheme due to their income not matching the house price, which cause many surplus house that still need an owner. So this issue has become worse after the implementation of this scheme. Next, based on the second objective, the issue on the trend of increasing price on goods has yet to find a solution. So houses built by the government are still considered expensive for people. Therefore, the issue of the cost of goods that increased after this scheme was created still needs to be solved. Based on the third objective, the government target is for the people to have house that can be occupied, but many of them still cannot afford them. Many Malaysians only afford to buy home under 300 ringgit. However, only 36% of newly launched house are less than this price. This shows that even though this scheme has been introduced, many people still need help to buy a home. Based on the fourth objective, after this policy is implemented, creating uniformity in the provision of affordable housing among players in the housing industry has yet to be achieved. Therefore, uniformity cannot be performed because of bureaucratic issue and procedures that need to be simplified, causing the developer to face those procedures in implementing affordable housing project. Based on the last objective, although the specification and characteristic of affordable housing by the Government of Malaysia are sustainable, habitable and safe, the specified price of 300,000 ringgit is still the price that people cannot afford. So even though the government successfully outlined the specification and characteristic of housing development to improve the quality of life, they still need to ensure more people can afford it. So that is all for this section. Let's jump to the next section. The following section is a recommendation to increase the effectiveness of this policy. The first one is to create an integrated database that includes information on the demand and availability of the house to be built under this scheme. Due to the difficulty in obtaining information, the ability to adapt housing supply to suit household demand is difficult. This leads to many unsold residential properties, especially affordable house. The following recommendation is the centralization of the National Affordable Housing Policy. The allocation of affordable housing is not consistent throughout the country because many agencies manage the affordable housing scheme such as KKLW, SPNB and Prima. Because of the different factor of agencies that provide this housing scheme, it's become a challenge because each of these agencies has another way of achieving the target of providing affordable housing to the people. The last recommendation is restoring the household financial standing by raising financial literacy. Therefore, throughout the Credit Counselling and Management Agency, Bank Negara Malaysia seek to increase financial literacy and education among home buyers to ensure that they can improve their financial standing, AKPK. There is an educational portal provided by AKPK online where the portal offers service that give advice and guidance regarding the decision to buy a house or rent. That is all from me. Let's continue with Iskandar.
To conclude, this policy is a new sub-policy and needs a lot of improvement in terms of implementation and strategy in achieving the main objective of this sub-policy. The Affordable Housing Policy, DRMM, can be said to be ineffective because it did not achieve its objective and complete their main target. This can be seen by the fact that several objectives that have been set cannot be achieved by this sub-policy. This sub-policy can be labeled as ineffective and not achieving their objective because it was affected by the collapse of the global economy during the COVID-19 pandemic. That's all from our group. Thank you.